Don't be forced to grow, and don't force anything to grow. Everything that is done by force will never ever work. You find that the people who are always forcing stuff, they're the people who cause frustration, and they cause a whole lot of trouble and problems. Never ever force anything to grow. You consider every single greenery, every grass. They're smart enough not to toil and to waver. They go when the wind blows, their branches blow with the wind. They are the way we ought to be. Never force anything. You meet anybody who's always trying to get you to do something, who ain't thinking 1 second that they're actually forcing something. They're literally trying to manipulate you. The word manipulate means a man, you, I, which is the person doing the forcing, pull. Man, I manip you, and then ate. So you take the bait. You take the bait when somebody forces you. The things about people who like to force things, the invisible world, everything around us is set up. It is not set up to force. You can never force, even in mathematics, you can never force 1 plus 1 to equal 2. It simply will be 1 plus 1 equals 2. A 1 and 1 is 11. It depends upon the equation you're in and you're standing in your life. Never force. Now, look, I understand that when it comes to things like worry, when it's things like desperation, these are the lower vibrations that causes you to force. And you know, the more that you force, even when you're praying, the more that you beg, the less you will see. As a matter of fact, it's a bit of a setup. That the more you beg and the more that you force, the less your results become. So the best thing to do with anything in life is never ever force the issue. Never force. You meet people who are married, and you always find if there's one member of that union that is consistently forcing and pushing and let's do this, let's do that, they create something called stress. And you see in anything in life, anything that goes on, any kind of machinery, rope, anything, you create stress on it, something happens, especially with a rope or a rubber band. When you pull it, what happens? It will swing back and it will sting. That's why forcing never ever works. I've had to discover this the hard way. And the people who actually force anything, they force people. You see it in governments. You see with people with some guy decides to he gets voted in, and he ends up forcing the issue. It's only a matter of time when everything loses, and everyone loses. The dollar sinks, the society stinks, and everything just goes straight downhill. That's why forcing never works. Do you remember that movie, the old Star Trek, and they'd say, there's trouble in the force, right? And the fact of the matter is that there was never really no trouble. They called it the force because it was always in conflict with the dark side. The problem with everything else in our life, when we are having conflicts, both within and without, it's always going to be trouble in the force. Who wants force? Jesus said basically, the Word of God, it says that in confidence and in quietness shall be your strength. Jesus says, consider the birds of the air, consider the lilies of the field, they neither toil nor sow. He goes, why do you worry? Even look at the birds of the air. They're consistently being fed by God the Father. He says, how much more worth are you? So, I keep coming back to it. I don't want to keep repeating myself, but just to encourage you today, how do you stop forcing yourself? It's really coming to a realization that you are not making the situation any better. Do you know at times that I discovered that when I became so relaxed and I did something else away from what I was trying to force or became so occupied with, it eventually just worked out. You leave it alone to work out. And you know, even in families, when parents force their children, you know what it does? It forces their children away from them. And the parents who allow their children are able to go forth and become the best they ever could be because they discover their uniqueness. They discover a uniqueness within everything around them, and they're able to live, they're able to breathe. And that's another thing that force does. Force will remove your breath from you. So my encouragement to you today, as I put this picture up of all the beautiful greeneries, summertime, is that you don't have to force. Whatever the seasons of your life, let the wind blow, let whatever's going on, but always will come that peaceful time, and you create that peace in your life. Don't force. And if you're people who are trying to tell you you need to do this and you should do that and you this and you that, they don't like it themselves. That's why they force it. They like to force it because they are out of control. And that's another thing to remember, but people who like to force things is because they're out of control. The way to have the best control in life is not to force anything. You all have a great day, and just be encouraged, okay?